The studio was alive with a brilliance that could outshine the stars themselves. Every surface glimmered under the meticulously engineered lights, and a colossal LED screen at the back flashed the bold logo of the media game. The hum of anticipation filled the air, a sound as constant and pervasive as the murmur of a restless crowd. In the rows of seats, an audience of diverse backgrounds leaned forward, their eyes glistening with both curiosity and trepidation. Some whispered excitedly, while others exchanged knowing looks, as if they were all part of a grand spectacle that was as much a psychological experiment as it was a televised event. As the camera panned slowly from the grand entrance of the studio toward the audience, every face seemed to tell a story of expectation. The light filtering through the enormous windows gave the room an ethereal quality, transforming the space into a modern-day arena of ideas. The background music, a pulsating blend of electronic beats laced with suspenseful crescendos, set the stage for what many would later call an unforgettable confrontation. In this space, where every word was a potential spark for public debate, the lines between news and entertainment blurred. Seated around a sleek, circular table were the panelists, critical observers of today's political and social landscape. Among them, Marcus Reed, a seasoned journalist known for his acerbic wit, exchanged smirks with Evelyn Grant, whose reputation for incisive commentary was as legendary as her unyielding gaze. Samuel Frost, a political analyst whose opinions stirred controversy even among his peers, added a layer of gravitas to the proceedings. Their eyes flicked between one another and the stage, each waiting for the moment when the carefully choreographed performance would begin. From behind the scenes, the charismatic host stepped into the spotlight. With a voice that resonated across the studio, the MC declared, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the media game. Tonight, we bear witness to a clash of titans, a confrontation that promises to shake the very foundation of modern broadcasting. Prepare yourselves for a night of unrelenting discourse, as Grayson Holt, the emblem of fearless media, goes head-to-head with Karoline Leavitt, the emerging icon of a new era on the right." A ripple of excitement surged through the crowd as the camera swept over the studio. The LED screen intermittently flashed hashtags like #MediaGameOn and #DivideOrUnite, each graphic a visual echo of the turbulent debate about to unfold. In that moment, the studio transformed into a crucible where ideals were not only tested but incinerated in the heat of public opinion. With a measured step that blended arrogance and confidence, Grayson Holt strode into the studio. His presence was magnetic, a combination of calculated poise and a hint of provocation that left no room for doubt about his role in tonight's narrative. A solitary spotlight followed him like a loyal shadow, accentuating every contour of his sharp features, each one sculpted to perfection. His eyes, cool and incisive, scanned the room as if daring anyone to challenge his authority. As Grayson approached the central table, the camera captured a close-up of his face, where a sardonic smile played about his lips. The expression was a silent declaration of superiority, as if he were both the judge and the arbiter of truth in this battle of wits. The applause that followed was a mixture of admiration and uncertainty, an acknowledgement of his status as a media veteran with a legacy built on controversy and acerbic criticism. Taking his place at the head of the table, Grayson wasted no time. His voice, rich with irony, cut through the ambient noise like a finely honed blade. "Karoline," he drawled, elongating her name as if savoring every syllable. "After years of embracing modern media with all its flaws and triumphs, do you truly believe that the time-honored principles of the Republican tradition have any relevance in this digital age? Or have you come merely to snatch a fleeting gotcha moment on live television?" The question hung in the air, a taunting challenge that set off a series of murmurs among the audience and panelists alike. Marcus Reed leaned forward with a knowing smirk, while Samuel Frost's eyes narrowed in skepticism. Evelyn Grant merely raised an eyebrow, as if to say that this was but the beginning of an intricate dance where words were weapons and every remark a calculated maneuver. Intermittently, the LED screen erupted with hashtags such as #MediaGameOn and #DividedTruth, reinforcing the narrative of a cultural clash. Grayson's presence was not just about his own persona. It was a symbol of an era in which media could shape, and even fracture, public opinion with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. Across from Grayson, Karoline Leavitt sat with an air of unyielding composure. In stark contrast to Grayson's flamboyant entrance, her demeanor was measured, her eyes steady and full of purpose. While the studio's lights bathed her in a soft glow, her expression revealed nothing but a calm determination. Every muscle in her face seemed to be finely tuned for the battle ahead, a silent promise that she would not be swayed by empty provocation. The camera shifted to a close-up of Karoline's face, capturing the subtle interplay of emotion and resolve. There was an undeniable strength in her gaze, a piercing look that seemed to challenge not only Grayson but the entire system of divisive media narratives. In her mind, a silent monologue echoed. They expected me to waver, to be overwhelmed by his theatrics. But tonight, I will show them that genuine conviction is not so easily shaken. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm, deliberate, yet laden with an undercurrent of forcefulness. Grayson, she began, her tone steady as if delivering a preordained truth. I did not come here to perform a scripted role or to indulge in theatrical one-upmanship. I am here to speak plainly, to remind everyone that media is not merely a game of mockery and division. And if you believe I am just another naive face, easily manipulated by trendy slogans, then I invite you to watch closely. Her words rippled through the studio, carrying a weight that demanded attention. The panelists' initial smirks faltered. Even Marcus Reed seemed momentarily taken aback by the sincerity in her tone. Evelyn Grant's eyes lit up with a spark of approval, while Samuel Frost's stoic mask betrayed a hint of apprehension. Karoline's statement was not simply a rebuttal. It was an invitation to reconsider what the media represented, a call to see beyond the glitter of sensationalism. As her declaration resonated across the room, the LED screen displayed Karoline's words in bold subtitles, transforming her message into a rallying cry. Hashtags like #NoMoreGames and #TruthBeforeDivision flashed intermittently, signaling a shift in the narrative, a challenge to the established order that had long taken the art of manipulation for granted. The atmosphere in the studio shifted imperceptibly but irrevocably. What had begun as a display of theatrical bravado now evolved into a battle of ideologies, a contest of wit and resolve where every syllable was meticulously measured. Grayson leaned forward, his posture rigid with determination as he countered Karoline's statement. "Is it really so simple, Karoline?" Grayson asked, his tone laden with derision. "Do you truly believe that your lofty ideals can counter the very essence of modern political reality? Or are you simply clinging to an outdated notion that truth can be served on a silver platter, untouched by the harsh realities of the digital age?" His words, delivered with a mocking cadence, sent a ripple of tension through the room. The camera swung between the two as if capturing the raw electricity in the space. For a fleeting moment, the studio was silent except for the quiet hum of the electronic soundtrack and the distant murmur of the captivated audience. Every eye was fixed on the two figures at the center of this ideological duel. A duel that was far more than a simple debate, but a confrontation that encapsulated the very soul of a divided society. Karoline met his gaze unflinchingly. "Grayson," she replied slowly, her voice echoing in the hushed space. "Look beyond your own cynicism. You assume that the media's power lies solely in its ability to divide and ridicule, but that is a narrow view. When we reduce human discourse to mere spectacle, when we trade genuine debate for sensationalized moments, we are not advancing truth. We are sacrificing it on the altar of entertainment." Her words were measured but incendiary, challenging Grayson to see the bigger picture. A murmur of approval rippled among the audience, and even some of the panelists shifted in their seats as if to lean in a bit closer. Marcus Reed's lips twitched into a half-smile, and Samuel Frost's steely expression softened imperceptibly. Yet, Grayson was not ready to relent. His next words came out with a venomous edge, designed to provoke and unsettle. "Then tell me, Karoline," he spat, "if truth is so simple and untainted, why do you allow yourself to be swept up in the very game you claim to despise? Aren't you, in your own way, playing by the same rules that have defined this industry for decades? Is this not another act in your personal theater of rebellion? The studio erupted with tension. Karoline's eyes narrowed slightly, her expression a mix of surprise and steely resolve. The question hung in the air, almost as if it were a challenge to her very identity. For a long, pregnant moment, silence reigned. Then, with a calm clarity that belied the storm beneath, she responded, "Grayson, I stand before you not to mimic the theatrics of an outdated system, but to dismantle it. I refuse to be defined by the very framework that thrives on division. And if you think that my presence here is just another scripted performance, then I ask you, when did authenticity ever play a role in your carefully curated persona?" Her retort, both defiant and reflective, cut through the clamor of manufactured rhetoric. As the dialogue intensified, every word was punctuated by charged glances and subtle shifts in posture. The panelists, once content to merely observe, now leaned into the conversation, their reactions a silent commentary on the unfolding drama. Marcus Reed's eyes danced with a mixture of amusement and admiration, while Samuel Frost's stoic exterior seemed to waver under the weight of the confrontation. Evelyn Grant, the quiet sentinel of truth, merely nodded in approval, her gaze fixed firmly on Karoline. At one point, Grayson's voice cracked with incredulity. "Do you truly think that by simply speaking your mind you can change a system that has long been built on the exploitation of human vulnerability?" he challenged, his tone a blend of sarcasm and genuine doubt. Karoline's reply was almost a whisper, yet it resonated like a clarion call. "Change begins when we dare to question the status quo," she said, her eyes shining with an inner fire. "If you are so convinced that the game is fixed, then why do you continue to play it?" That question, sharp, incisive, and impossible to ignore, reverberated around the studio. It was a turning point in the exchange, a moment when the carefully constructed facades began to crumble, revealing the raw, unvarnished truths hidden beneath. The audience's reaction was immediate and visceral, a collective intake of breath as if they were witnessing the dismantling of an old order. For a few moments, the only sound was the pounding of hearts and the silent roar of a crowd awakened to the possibility of something greater than mere spectacle. The tension escalated further as the camera continued to alternate between close-ups of the two adversaries. Each flicker of expression, every measured pause, became a piece of the larger narrative. A narrative that was as much about the struggle for power in the media as it was about the fight for integrity in a world gone mad with sensationalism. As the verbal sparring reached fever pitch in the studio, the scene spilled over into the digital realm. Within minutes, smartphones and social media feeds lit up with live clips of the debate, each segment remixed and shared by viewers across the nation. In split-second fashion, the encounter transcended the confines of the studio and morphed into a viral sensation, sparking heated discussions in online forums, comment sections, and tweets that reverberated like digital battle cries. A montage of social media clips appeared on the LED screen, rapid-fire snapshots of Karoline's resolute expression, Grayson's mocking grin, and the heated exchanges that had everyone on the edge of their seats. Hashtags such as #MediaDivide, #TruthUnfiltered, and #CarolineUnleashed floated by in bold, dynamic fonts, each one a testament to the polarizing nature of the dialogue. In the digital arena, the narrative was no longer confined to the studio. Every viewer became a part of this unfolding drama, each reaction a vote in a virtual contest of opinions. A particularly viral tweet, overlaid on the screen in striking neon letters, read, "Karoline Leavitt just flipped the script. Grayson Holt's game is over. Who's with her?" The tweet, accompanied by a short video clip of Karoline's defiant stare, quickly amassed thousands of likes and retweets. In online chat rooms, debates erupted. One user asked, "Is it possible that Grayson's arrogance blinded him to the real issues at hand?" Another countered, "Karoline isn't playing by his rules, and that's exactly what we need." The cacophony of opinions, both supportive and critical, created a digital echo chamber where every word was amplified 100-fold. Amid the flurry of hashtags and trending topics, a series of brief voiceovers narrated by impassioned social media commentators provided an external commentary that further fueled the fire. Tonight, We witnessed a clash of eras, one voice intoned. The old guard meets the new wave, and it's clear that neither is willing to back down. Another voice remarked, Grayson Holt may have dominated the media for years, but tonight, Karoline Leavitt has redefined what it means to challenge the status quo. The digital landscape was alive with tension. Every new post, every shared video clip was a call to arms, a declaration that the battle for the soul of modern media was far from over. In living rooms, coffee shops, and even workplaces, discussions flared up as people dissected every detail of the confrontation. The narrative was contagious, and within hours, it was impossible to scroll through any social feed without encountering passionate debates about the nature of truth, the power of media, and the responsibility of public figures. The viral spread of the debate only heightened the stakes. As the studio confrontation continued, the digital world became a parallel battleground, a space where every viewer, every comment, was an active participant in a discourse that was rapidly transforming into a cultural phenomenon. It was a reminder that in today's world, the line between television and social media was not just blurred, it was non-existent. With the intense verbal duel behind them, the atmosphere in the studio slowly transitioned from charged confrontation to a dense, reflective silence. Grayson Holt, whose earlier bravado had filled the room with invective and challenge, now sat in a manner that betrayed a deep internal conflict. His eyes, once sharp and unyielding, darted uncertainly as if searching for a foothold in a conversation that had unexpectedly spiraled out of his control. The panelists, too, were affected by the exchange. Marcus Reed, who had been so confident in his earlier smirks, now wore a look of contemplative concern. Samuel Frost's expression, so often stoic and resolute, had softened with a hint of remorse or perhaps the dawning realization that the battle was not simply a contest of words, but a reflection of the larger, more disconcerting realities of modern media. Evelyn Grant, ever the quiet observer, simply sat with her hands folded, her eyes never leaving the scene before her. In this fragile aftermath, the studio felt like a battlefield after the storm. The camera panned slowly over the faces of the audience, now silent and introspective, as if every viewer were trying to piece together the shards of a debate that had shattered long-held assumptions. The ambient music, once aggressive and pulsating, shifted to a more subdued, haunting melody, a soundtrack for the collective introspection that had overtaken everyone present. Grayson finally broke the silence with a forced, almost hollow smile. "Well, that was a conversation worth having," he said, his tone tinged with a reluctant acknowledgement of the complexity of the encounter. His voice wavered, a stark contrast to the earlier venom that had characterized his every word. It was as if, in that moment, he had recognized that the game he once controlled was slipping through his fingers. Karoline, still composed but now carrying the weight of her convictions with a quiet intensity, offered a measured response. "This wasn't about winning or losing, Grayson. It was about shedding light on the dangerous games we play with truth," she said, her voice resonating with a blend of resolve and empathy. "If we continue to use media as a weapon to divide rather than unite, then we are all doomed to lose in the end." The silence that followed was palpable, a silence filled with the unspoken acknowledgement that the stakes were far higher than a mere televised debate. It was a moment of reckoning, a moment when the audience and the panelists alike were forced to confront the harsh reality that the very tools meant to inform and connect were being used to fracture society. As the studio lights dimmed slightly, the lingering echoes of the debate seemed to hang in the air. The camera lingered on Grayson's conflicted gaze, then shifted to Karoline's unwavering expression. In that quiet, heavy moment, every viewer was left with a question that reverberated far beyond the confines of the studio. What is the cost of a media landscape where truth is sacrificed at the altar of sensationalism? After the cameras went off and the studio's bright lights dimmed, the real consequences of the debate began to unfold behind the scenes. In a cramped, dimly lit control room, Grayson's production team scrambled to manage the fallout. The sound of urgent phone calls, rapid-fire text messages, and heated discussions filled the air. It wasn't long before the news broke that Grayson's own public relations team was reeling from a sudden crisis. a crisis born from the very confrontation he had engineered. In a series of hastily arranged meetings, Grayson's colleagues, now rebranded with new names to avoid the inevitable media backlash, faced a reckoning. Jordan Price, the studio's PR chief, and Alicia Monroe, a veteran communications strategist, were at the helm of the crisis response. Their eyes, strained from hours of sleepless strategizing, scanned through a barrage of social media posts, trending hashtags, and endless news alerts that painted a picture of a divided nation. Every digital pulse was a reminder that the battle in the studio had triggered a nationwide reckoning. The narrative that had begun as a televised spectacle had taken on a life of its own. Across the internet, commentators were dissecting every nuance of the exchange, with some hailing Karoline Leavitt as a beacon of hope in a sea of cynical manipulation, while others decried her as nothing more than a disruptive force in an already fractured media landscape. News tickers flashed headlines like, Karoline Leavitt, the voice of truth in a world of media mayhem, and Grayson Holt's crisis. When provocation becomes a liability, in boardrooms and living rooms alike, the debate was dissected with surgical precision. The conversation had evolved into a broader discourse on the ethical responsibilities of those in the media, a debate that questioned not only individual integrity but the very structure of a system that had long thrived on division. The consequences were as immediate as they were profound. Grayson, once seen as untouchable, now appeared visibly shaken. His earlier mockery had given way to an awkward silence, a silence filled with self-doubt and regret. In one of the post-show interviews, when pressed about his future in media, he offered a strained smile and a vague promise to reassess his approach, a statement that did little to quell the growing storm of public criticism. In stark contrast, Karoline's measured composure resonated with a burgeoning movement. Her words, recorded and shared countless times on social media, had become a rallying cry for a generation tired of endless bickering and empty rhetoric. "We must not let media become a game of division," she had said, and those words now echoed in the hearts and minds of people demanding accountability and unity. In offices across the country, people gathered around screens to watch the ripple effects of the debate. In coffee shops, heated discussions replaced idle chatter, and in online forums, the conversation soared to fevered pitches. The media, always eager for the next big story, was quick to latch onto the controversy. Opinion pieces, editorials, and viral memes flooded every corner of the internet, each one a testament to the raw power of that fateful night. As the dust began to settle, the lessons of the evening emerged with painful clarity. The experiment of the media game had exposed not just the personal vulnerabilities of its participants, but the systemic flaws that allowed sensationalism to overshadow substance. The debate had become a mirror, reflecting a society caught in the throes of its own contradictions, where truth was both manipulated and celebrated in equal measure. Karoline's parting words in the studio, delivered with a quiet but unyielding conviction, had left an indelible mark. When media reduces humanity to mere spectacle, it risks destroying the very foundation of our shared future. It was a lesson that reverberated far beyond the confines of that broadcast, sparking a movement that sought to reclaim the power of honest dialogue over divisive theatrics. As the final moments of the broadcast faded into the night, the screen in the studio darkened slowly, leaving behind an indelible imprint on the minds of those who had witnessed the unfolding drama. The LED display, now showing a montage of viral hashtags, hashtag media divide, hashtag truth before division, hashtag Karoline Leavitt, became a digital monument to the night's events. The once roaring studio had quieted, replaced by a palpable stillness that spoke louder than any words. In the fading light, the host returned to the screen for one last address. His voice, now imbued with the weight of the evening's revelations, echoed across the studio. This was not merely a confrontation between two individuals. It was a call to every citizen who dares to question the narratives imposed upon us. Tonight, we have seen how easily the media can turn truth into a game. A game that, if left unchecked, will divide us all. But remember, the power to change that narrative lies in our hands. The screen shifted to a montage of behind-the-scenes images, a flurry of production meetings, intense social media reactions, and quiet moments of reflection among the panelists. Grayson Holt, caught in the aftermath of his own bravado, was shown in a rare moment of vulnerability, his eyes betraying a deep-seated uncertainty about the future. Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt's image, serene yet resolute, dominated the screen, her message of authenticity resonating with every viewer. In a final, stirring moment, the host's voice returned, filled with a fervor that could not be ignored. This isn't just the end of tonight's broadcast. It's the beginning of a movement that challenges the very nature of our media, that calls for truth, accountability, and above all, unity in the face of division. Share your thoughts, spread the message, and join us as we continue to hold power accountable. The game may be fierce, but the truth is invincible. The camera pulled back slowly, capturing the studio as it began to empty, leaving behind only the echoes of a debate that had transcended its medium to become a rallying cry for change. In the quiet after the storm, the images of Karoline's determined gaze and Grayson's conflicted expression lingered, symbols of a battle that was far from over, and of the endless quest for a media that honors truth over spectacle. In the weeks that followed, the debate that had once electrified the studio rippled outwards, transforming into a broader conversation that redefined the boundaries of media discourse. Newsrooms across the country began to question their own practices, spurred by the viral images and resonant words that had filled living rooms and online forums alike. Editorial meetings, once dominated by talk of ratings and sensational headlines, now turned to discussions of ethical responsibility and the real human cost of divisive reporting. Across social media, users posted remixed clips and poignant commentaries, each one a testament to the power of genuine dialogue in a world increasingly driven by superficial engagement. Memes surfaced that captured the irony of a system built on spectacle now calling for introspection. A digital tapestry woven with threads of hope, anger, and determination. Karoline Leavitt, the beacon of truth, read one post, while another proclaimed, Grayson Holt's mirror. When the media looks back at itself, these narratives, shared and reshared, became part of a larger collective consciousness, urging everyone to rethink the role of media in shaping public discourse. In private boardrooms, the fallout was equally dramatic. Grayson's production team, reeling from the backlash, initiated sweeping changes. Confidential memos hinted at a new strategic vision, a move away from incendiary rhetoric toward more substantive, fact-based discussions. Even the once dismissive panelists began to publicly acknowledge the transformative power of the debate, each adding their own voice to the growing chorus for change. For Karoline, the aftermath brought both acclaim and scrutiny. While many hailed her as a fearless champion of truth, others tried to undermine her message, questioning whether her resolve could withstand the relentless pressures of a media machine designed to profit from division. Yet, every challenge only strengthened her resolve. In a follow-up interview that quickly went viral, she reaffirmed her commitment to honest dialogue. I did not come here to entertain or to provoke for the sake of ratings. I came here because I believe that when we speak our truth, even in the face of scorn, we empower others to do the same. Media is not a playground for the powerful. It is a platform for voices that dare to change the world. As the days turned into weeks, the echoes of that fateful night continued to inspire change. Activists, journalists, and ordinary citizens found themselves united by a single question. Can the media, with all its might, be transformed from a tool of division into a beacon of truth? It was a question that would shape the conversations in boardrooms, coffee shops, and online communities for years to come. And so, as the digital storm slowly subsided and the studio lights dimmed on that unforgettable night, one thing remained clear. The game of media had changed forever. The battle was no longer about spectacle, it was about substance. And in that new dawn, every shared post, every heartfelt comment, every moment of introspection was a step toward a media landscape where truth was the ultimate victor.